Hi, everyone. This is Mary Kwiatkowski here getting ready to speak with the most recent team extracted from episode 5 of Fox's new survival show, Extracted. If you haven't watched the show yet, make sure you check that out and then come back for the interview. Of course, you should also check out our coverage on the episode recaps over on We Know Reality TV with myself and Chappell. All right, today I'm joined by Ryan W. and his wife, Sarah. Thank you both for joining me, first off, and really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Kind of want to start off by asking Ryan, in the 5 episodes that we saw, it really seemed like you were having one of the easiest times out there. Do you have any background with outdoorsy activities or any other kind of things that you think lended to your success?
Yeah, so I grew up in Colorado, kind of camping and fishing. So I am comfortable out in the mountains and in the woods. I've done a lot of camping, and that's basically it. No real skills. Pretty good at fishing, but anything else that there's no skills there.
Were there any opportunities for you to try and catch any fish while you were out there by hand or otherwise?
There was, but where I was situated on the lake was no good for fishing. So other people had a better spot. I mean, I don't know. I didn't see it.
Yeah, it seemed interesting that you were all spread out. Were you kind of just given a spot and had to go with it? I don't know if there was any kind of process into how you each got assigned a position.
Yeah, they just dropped you off on a path, and then you kind of walked down and down through the bushes, and then there's a little marker, and then you just go walk off into the woods. There's no trail or anything. You just walk out and find where the cameras are.
Yeah, that seems fun. We saw on the show that you appeared to have a really good shelter and plenty of food and water, ability to make fire. How long do you think you could have lasted out there?
The whole time. No,
Indefinitely.
I don't.
That's what
Yeah,
it seemed like.
longer than the show. Probably. I don't know. I was totally fine. When I left, I had a lot of water and a lot of food, and I was happy. I was content. So,
Yeah, how long were you actually out there?
9 days, I think.
Wow. Okay.
I didn't keep track of days when I was out there, so I really was confused when I got back as to. I was like, how long have I been?
Yeah, that seems like that would be hard. So we know there's, after watching this episode, a bit of the elephant in the room. So Sarah, when it came to this was a unique scenario so far on the show since you and Sean, who were in HQ, decided to extract Ryan without him seeming to have asked for it at all. So what all went into that decision from your perspective?
Yeah, it was a really hard decision. I mean, Ryan was actively saying, don't ever extract me. So we knew that he was having the best of times. He was doing amazing. But the dynamics in HQ were just pretty terrible, if I'm being honest. And it just got to a point where Sean and I had to make a choice as to whether or not that like the HQ experience was something that we felt like we wanted to manage long term. And at the end of the day, he and I kind of agreed that if we were put in a position to do something that we felt was going to physically or emotionally hurt either Ryan or even another survivalist, we didn't want to play that game. And so you'll see in this episode, we were asked to burn letters to other people's families, and that just felt like it was crossing a line to us. It made other people feel bad, it made us feel bad, and at the end of the day, it's just a game, and it's not even that much money. And so there was nothing that Sean and I felt was worth keeping us there.
So if that scenario had been where you could have just each given the letter, it wasn't burned, do you think something else down the line would have been the tipping point, or do you think you would have stuck it out a little longer if you'd been able to get that letter?
I would like to think so. It was really hard to be able to go. Sean was a little bit further down the path of wanting to leave than I was. And so I did have to make a choice to like, do I keep fighting for Ryan or do I respect what Sean wants to do? Sean had several days where he was pretty much begging me for us to go home. And so, I put Sean off quite some time. The letter was the catalyst for this one. Would there be something the next day, the next challenge that caused it, even more probably. And I think that was the ultimate decision, as we knew it was going to get harder and knew it was going to get worse. And, it wasn't a lot of fun, right? It was hard because Ryan was having the best time, but Sean and I were like really not having a good time.
So how did that conversation go once you all met up after Ryan was extracted?
We
Uh,
knew, yeah, I would say we knew as soon as we kind of explained to Ryan what was going on, he'd be cool with it. But there was a few awkward moments when Ryan was like, "What the hell, guys?"
Definitely. Once they explained it to me, I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. But right away, I was very confused when I got pulled out. Why is my wife crying? Like, what? I thought we were having fun. So I didn't know they weren't having any fun. So
Yeah.
I was very confused.
That's definitely the issue with the one-way communication. So, Ryan, when you first heard that you were getting extracted, did anything pop into your mind like, oh, did something happen? Is there a danger? Did something happen to Sarah or Sean?
Yeah, well, I thought we had some sick family members um, going into this. And so I thought something had happened to one of them. So like, I thought maybe something bad happened to the family, and I was like, oh, that's fine. But then I don't know if they'll show it or not, but I was walking in circles. I wasn't too happy about it. If it's a family member, it's fine. But like, yeah, I was confused, very confused.
Yeah, so we didn't get to see, you having to do some of those decisions that Sarah and Sean were making. How do you think that you would have handled some of those same type of challenges where it comes to making alliances, maybe betraying them, the kind of dynamics going on in HQ there?
I was a diesel mechanic for like 11 years, and I worked with some at a landscape company. I worked with some gruff guys, so my heart's a little blacker than the others.
You're just too kind for this show, Sarah.
I know. Well, I got to give it to Sean. I think actually Sean's heart is a little bit softer than even mine. But between the two of us, it was just like, this is lame. Like, why are we doing this still?
Did you know going in, did you feel like it might get kind of cutthroat like that?
We had no idea going into this what it was going to be, right? First season, they didn't tell us anything. So we didn't really know what to prepare for. There was contestants who were studying like prison break codes, right? Like we had no idea what we were going to be doing. We were expecting games like you might see on Amazing Race or Survivor. And so we figured there would be alliances and it would be cutthroat. I don't think we were at all prepared for the psychological part of it. I think maybe like a day or two before we went into the wild, we had a little bit of an inkling that it was going to maybe be a little different than what we expected. But I don't think if we had known that it was going to be so psychological, we might have brought a different family member or maybe even just decided not to come at all. So I don't know.
Gotcha. Well, while we saw tensions certainly rise in HQ these past few episodes, we've also seen some bonding happen as well. Were you able to bond at all with any of the other family members there or have any kind of nice moments with them?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely seeing all the drama on TV, but there was a lot of downtimes. And I felt like as a group, I loved all of the other families that were there. Obviously, Sean and I had a really close bond with Kelsey and Laura, Rose's family, just because we were sitting next to them. They're from Colorado. So definitely, I hope and pray that Kelsey and Laura and Rose are going to be like lifelong friends. I really loved Ryan H's mom, Candy. She's one of the greatest humans you'll ever meet in the whole world. And so there was an Abby. I mean, there's just so many people. I could go on and on. There's so many people that we loved, and hopefully we've got some good real friends forever.
Speaking of Ryan H's family, it seemed like there might have been a little bit of an alliance with them and Woody's son as well, going into the challenge where you had to rank everyone based on strength. Was there a miscommunication there, or did they just basically turn around and say, "Yeah, sorry, we're going to rank him higher"?
No, I think that all turned out kind of how I wanted. I was happy with how that turned out. I really didn't. I had a sense that you didn't want to be top in that challenge. And so I was happy that Ryan and Woody and my Ryan weren't one or two. I kind of pushed pretty hard to get Haley up in the line because she was a threat. That girl's tough. And I think people were underestimating her. So I actually felt it was a victory to get Haley on top of Ryan.
Yeah, and I think just looking at how well you were doing out there, Ryan, I don't know that anyone would have ever ranked you a whole lot lower than 3 or 4, probably.
Yeah, I felt that was as good as we could get on that one. But I also, I mean, truly, I felt like Ryan H needed a win. And so I was happy for him to be kind of lower than my Ryan, because I wanted him to have an opportunity. And so that whole scenario played out pretty well in my mind.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, Ryan, we did see in the deer hunt challenge that you had an opportunity to meet up with Woody at the deer carcass. How was that, actually being able to talk to some of the other contestants for a little while?
It was exciting to finally meet somebody, and that's what we thought we were gonna meet again, but nope. So yeah, and I walked back with them a little while too, and talked for a little while. They told us not to, but we did for a little bit. And so it was nice to talk to somebody and meet somebody. And I told him not to drink the water.
Someone needed to tell him.
I was like, bro, don't drink the water. So
yeah, I feel like that's rule number 1. Most people should know.
we were very thirsty. Like, they don't show how hot it was when we got dropped off there. So it went from like hot and it got cold. So we were very thirsty, very thirsty. I don't know what day it was, but I could barely talk. I was like, I mean,
yeah,
very thirsty.
They went so long without water, right?
Yeah,
and then they got the supply drop, right? And Woody didn't have a way to make fire and boil water. Like, what are you going to do, right? Drink the lake water or go home? So don't blame him, but it's crazy to watch it.
Yeah, and then I guess it eventually started raining. Were you able to collect any of that rainwater? Or, I mean, you're not sitting out there with giant buckets and pots and pans, so it must have been kind of hard.
I had during that original supply drop, I got a lot of supplies. They don't really show that, but I had a pot to boil water in, and I was already boiling water, and I had 2 canteens then that were full of water. And so the whole time I was all right, and I was just boiling water the whole time.
Okay,
so I didn't have to catch any water or anything like that. I could there was that creek, and I could go over to the creek and grab some water and boil it, and yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's good that you were at least able to boil it. A lot of other people seem to really struggle with fire, but so is there anything else, especially Ryan, that you'd like to share from your experience out there that maybe we didn't get to see?
I don't think so. I think they showed most of it. I was just having a good time.
Dude was crushing it. Like, his smoker was incredible. He made like this really crazy like bear bag contraption thing that I don't think we've seen. Like, we called him MacGyver in HQ because he was always figuring out a way to fix something or do something. Like, he whittled a spoon, he made a fork. Like, he was like all over it. He was ready to live.
Yeah, you should have been able to give some of your your MacGyvered equipment to some of the other teams then when you left, because that was really impressive. Even just the shots that we saw of your shelter looked really, really good.
Yeah, it was really nice. I was having a good time.
Well, I'm sure that there are some other sort of outdoor activities you can do where your wife won't have to just sit there and watch you.
Watch him boil water for hours on end. This is really fun, Ryan. This is great. Good quality time.
All right. Well, I'm glad that y'all are in pretty good spirits then. Thanks for chatting with me, and best of luck out there. All right. Hi, everyone. This is Mary Kwiatkowski and Chappell here, getting ready to speak with some more special guests from Extracted. We're kind of going back in time a little bit and talking with Deina and Devon here from Fox's new survival show, Extracted. If you haven't caught up with the show yet, definitely do. But if you've caught up with at least the first 3 episodes, then we can jump in here and talk to Deina and Devon. I'm so excited for this. So Deina, I know that you had reached out a little wanting to talk to us as well. And we were so excited to follow you for the first several episodes. Definitely bringing, I think, exactly what we wanted on the show, which is like in the nicest way, some people who had no business being out there in the middle of the woods.
I think that's probably why they brought me on the show.
So yeah, can you tell us a little bit from both of you about like how did you hear about the show? How did you decide to go on? Did you did you think it was going to go about as well as it did?
So I have always loved reality shows. I mean, I started watching Survivor when I was 17. You know, I couldn't try out for it yet. I was too young. And so ever since then, I love reality shows. Just the big adventure type competition shows. Not necessarily the straight survival shows like Alone. And so I saw that they were casting for a new family. It said like family competition.
Said your next big adventure.
Yeah. That's what. And so I was like, oh my gosh, we've got to do this. So I reached out to someone on Instagram, and we kind of went from there. And then I talked my sister into it. She didn't really want to do it. But I told her, I'm like, we're not going to get on it. What are the chances? Let's just try and see what happens. So, you know, it's like one Zoom call, then another one, and we keep going further and further. And then we did realize that we would be separated, that I would be in the wilderness, and they would be on a set somewhere essentially away from me. But in my head, I thought that I would be surviving with a group of people, like some of the other shows, because they wanted people with no experience. So I feel like I didn't think they were going to take a bunch of people with no experience and just throw us in the middle of the Canadian war. Then we would be together. So yeah, it was not what I expected at all, which you see on my face day one.
Yeah. So we got to know, how long were you just sitting there without building a shelter at all?
From the time they dropped me off in the helicopter until I laid my head down. And what time did they drop me off? Maybe 2:30, Devon? 2?
Yeah, around there. I will say though, she did start like picking up rocks for her fire. And I'm like, why are you collecting rocks right now for your fire? Like, that's the least of your worries. Like, you need to get a shelter over your head.
I did get rocks. I forgot about that. And I was down. And my campsite was up high. Like, you don't see that, but I had to like walk down to go get anything into the lake. And then I'd have to hike back up. So I'm like taking these big old rocks. It didn't show that. But yeah, they told us we had to make a circle around our campfire. So I put my rocks. That's all I did though. That's it.
Yeah.
I stood around the entire and was worried about the bears.
Oh yeah, I wish they would have showed more of her worrying about the bears. Oh my goodness, every 5 seconds, it's a bear. Is a bear gonna get me? A bear, a bear. That's why I sent her the bear spray so that she would shut the heck up.
Back when you go on something like this, I guess I just thought there would be camera people everywhere, people standing around. In my head, that's what I thought. And, you know, all of a sudden the sun is setting, and there was one camera guy that was there for a little while hiding behind trees. Well, the sun sets, they leave. There's nobody there, but the camera's on the trees. So I was like, oh my gosh, they're really leaving me out here.
Yeah. Devon, were you a big reality person too? How'd you let her rope you into this?
So no, I mean, I do watch reality TV, you know, but I don't really anymore. And never have I ever like dreamed of being on one. But you know, she called and she's like, hey, we have a Zoom call Monday. And it like happened to be like Memorial Day weekend. I'm like, I'm gonna be at a water park with my kid. She's like, well, you're gonna have to leave the water park early. And I was like, what? Is this really happening? So I did it for her because she's my big sister, and you know, I gotta be supportive of her dreams. So I did it, but never did I think that like we'd actually be flying on an airplane to Canada. And again, he's 5 now, but a 5-year-old little boy, and he's my heart. So like, I was like, there's no way I'm leaving him. But then we got the call and then I left.
So how about for some of these like survival challenges that you did, like did you collect any of the deer meat, and did you think that you were actually going to eat it?
So I did. I was afraid that if I didn't get to the deer and take some of the deer meat, that I could be eliminated because like we didn't know. So
the rules were very vague, you know, so they didn't like when Jacoba didn't cross the lake, I was like, oh, is he going to be eliminated? Like he didn't get in the water, you know? So
yeah. So I did take some deer meat. I did actually
She
ask.
didn't touch it.
So I did ask if we had to take a certain amount of deer meat, or if I had to fill it up, and they take as much or as little as you wanted to. So I just took just enough, like a few little pieces. I took my knife, and I didn't even touch. I didn't get any blood on my hands. Literally, meat was on the knife, which went straight to that little container, and I took it back. But I had zero intention of eating it, like zero. I lived off the berries.
Yeah. Davina, from clown to clown, I am very impressed with you. Okay. Let me be very clear. I am so impressed with the idea that you went out here and did this because you're right. This is not like any other reality show that we've seen. You know, like you said, there's normally a crew around you. You're surrounded by people, at least to some extent. How did you keep yourself motivated to be out there in this competition once you realized that you might have bitten off a little bit more than you could chew?
I think part of the motivation that first night, when I realized that I was already crying when they were still dropping people off at their campsite, because I could hear the helicopter still going. And I was like, oh my gosh. So the first night I was just thinking that my sister is going to literally kill me. We did so many like interviews, so much medical stuff, so much you have to do. And I was like, if I go home tonight, she's going to kill me. Like, she's going to kill me. So that's what got me through the first night. But then, honestly, I was super, like, kept thinking something was going to happen and they were going to bring us together in a group of, with a partner or something. Mm. I kind of held out longer for that. And then I also thought the trials, like, I was looking forward to those challenges. And I kind of realized that they were doing it every other day, it seemed like. So I was kind of trying to just hang on another day for another trial, because I actually enjoyed the competitions because it gave me something to do, kept my mind busy. It was like the isolation that really got me. That was the worst part for me, above the hunger, being dehydrated. It was the isolation. So the trials were at least around other people a little bit. You could see others, and I like doing those. So I guess that kind of pushed me to stay longer.
Now, Devon, we've seen from some of the people in HQ, especially at this point, like kind of making alliances, teaming up. When you were there with Tori, like it seemed like you were the main people who were just kind of like, "Wow, we're proud of how long she's lasted. We're just gonna sit here until she's crying."
No, we were for sure, and I mean, drama started literally the day we left. So that's when, like you said, the alliances started forming and everything. But so when we were there, it was kumbaya. Everybody, was supporting each other. When somebody got a fire, we all cheered, And so everybody though was like, "How's Davina doing? How's Davina doing?" Like, because I think they just couldn't believe, like, "Oh my gosh, she's just sleeping there with no shelter. Oh my gosh, like she doesn't have fire. Oh my gosh, she's not going to eat the deer meat." Like, so I think everyone was rooting for her, honestly, because she was the underdog. Like, is she gonna make it another night?
Yeah. Davina, what was your prep like getting ready to come into something like this? We see that you do not make a fire or a shelter. You don't want to eat. Listen, again, from clown to clown, what are we doing out here? Like if you were like my spirit animal out there in a way, it's like, okay, Davina's out there holding it down for the people like me who have no business in the woods. How did you get yourself ready for it?
So it's funny because I have had a lot of people reach out to only be on 3 episodes. Like, I didn't think I would have fans. Like, I have had a lot of people reach out, and I think it's because they can relate to me. They were like, so that's been awesome. But yeah, I did zero prep. I literally was in denial, thinking that I was going to be with other people, and I was just going to like be friendly and fly under the radar and use my Southern charm to just hang. I don't know.
Social game. Yeah.
And the day before I flew out, I went and got my nails done.
That was her
fair. I would have
done
that.
And it's funny you asked that, because I literally called her probably about 2 weeks before. I was like, I'm not, because she lives in the woods, like on some acreage. And I was like, if you don't go sleep in the woods tonight, I'm not going. Like, I'm not going to fly to Canada if you don't go sleep in the woods tonight. And I remember she's like, Devon, I'm not going to be sleeping alone in the woods. Sure enough.
I have a friend that is a friend of a friend. He lives in my small town, and he was actually on Naked and Afraid years ago, and he's a fireman. So I did go to the fire station probably 3 days before I left, and he worked with me for about 30 minutes, so not long, just on how to like get a bird's nest, how to use the flint, light it, and I got it lit. I mean, he burned his finger from my flame, but that was it. It was 30 minutes of me practicing. And I thought I could do it again, honestly. But when I got out there, and I did try, everything was super wet. So like I was like, not working. It wasn't working at all. And then my sister, when she was able to write me a note, mentioned the toilet paper. So I did try to use the toilet paper, but y'all, I had matches. She sent me matches,
And she couldn't get a fire.
I even broke the match in half. Like, make this stuff up. Like, this is
And
not.
Rose did too. I remember Rose got really upset because she broke one of her matches, and she was like, "Damn, I just broke a match."
I just thought it was fun. Like, this is not my thing. And honestly, we couldn't keep a fire going at night because the fire ban had just been lifted in Canada where we were at. So I was only really, really cold at night. And so I knew if I got a fire going, all that work, and then I had to put it out to go to sleep, I'm like, it is not even worth it. I'm just going to, no fire, no shelter. I'm just going to live it out here until I can't take it anymore.
Oh my gosh. So we saw at the end, then when you do end up getting extracted, that was right around the time with the whole hot chocolate socks situation.
The hot chocolate saga.
Yeah, and that whole event took out several people, as it turned out. So
Yes.
so how did do you feel like if you had ended up getting the hot chocolate and socks, would that have changed anything?
Probably not that day. I mean, probably not. It didn't show me saying, but I said to the camera, talking to my sister and Tori at one point that day, that unless there's a trial, like we're going to have a challenge today, or unless there's a survival drop that's going to change my situation, I'm freezing and everything soaking wet because I didn't have a shelter. I just put a tarp up that I won during the RHAP challenge. So I just think that at that point, I was already in my head thinking, imagining myself going out to dinner and getting food and taking a hot shower. I think once you let that into your head, that image, my mind was done. And honestly, I think I gave up before my body did. I mean, at the time I thought my body was done, but looking back, I know it was my mind. Like, it's such a mental thing, and that isolation ultimately got me. So I don't think that the hot chocolate, I don't think that would have changed anything.
Yeah, and I remember when they said that was the drop, because I was excited it was a drop, but I was like praying for like food because she needed food because she did not eat the deer, or I was praying for something like warm, since she was all wet and it was getting colder. So when they said hot chocolate and socks, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "This," and then same with the deer the day before when they said that, I was like, "This is awful." Like this, two horrible ones in a row. So yeah, when they said the hot chocolate and socks, I'm like, this is not gonna change her mind right now.
It's not gonna change.
How many days were you out there?
6.
6 days. Wow.
6 days is incredible.
I know. I wish they showed it more, like day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 6 took out 3 people,
I know.
It didn't look that way, but that was a hard day though. It was the cold, it was rainy, a crappy drop.
You're out there, you can't see that other people are struggling. So in my mind, I felt like I was the only one struggling. But when I watched the show back and everyone had a bad day that day, I was like, why didn't you leave me out there, Devon? I could have done it, but it's different.
What?
I think once you have some food in you and you're nice and warm.
And a fire and a shelter.
I literally ate blueberries. I'm going to have blueberries off of trees for the week, And one.
So Devon, what other people in HQ did you talk to a lot? I know we've heard some people say like it was very much about who you were seated near.
It really was. And honestly, though, I loved where I was sitting. I was sitting on the left side, and we had a great group. I had the brothers in front of me, so Austin, Justin, and Jake, and I loved them. They were such gentlemen, so sweet. And now watching the show, too, I was like, man, if I would have just held out a couple more days, she would have got bread the next day. And then I know they would have sent her either a stove or a sleeping bag because they had my back and I had their back. So then Jake probably would have sent Jake some binoculars to give him something to do. But I loved them, and then I loved Laura and Kelsey and Rose behind me. And so I really talked to them the most, but then I also still talked to Lance and Faith because they were right at an angle from me, and then so was Jared and Abby. But yeah, I had a great group surrounding me.
Yeah.
Sorry,
go ahead, Chappell.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask, if you had made like a formal alliance with anyone or not.
No, not necessarily, because it was still so early at that point, I'm sure we would have soon, but at that point, no.
What was your the vibe, I guess I should say, when you do get ready to extract Davina? there's there's a question of like, should they be rooting for you to stay? We're all in this together, or were people trying to push you to go? Did people just think, okay, go save her? She's been out there for too long. How did it feel in HQ when you were about to make this move?
We all say, no, don't do it. Don't do it. And that is because, earlier in the day I said, I think I'm going to pull her. And they were like, no, like, wait. And it's funny because, you obviously want the person to go home because then that's one less person that you're competing with. But again, like we were just all so close at that point. You spent 20 hours a day with these people. So you got to know them really quickly. But yeah, I feel like at that point, again, no, don't extract her, don't yet, But they did all know Davina was struggling from the get-go. I mean, we thought she would win out the first night. So for her to be 6 days in, I was very proud of her.
Were you surprised to see either one of you, like, which other people ended up getting extracted that same day?
I was a little bit. I knew Ashley though. I mean, she had been asking all day, so I did. My heart felt bad for her because she was just sitting there because I think she thought they were pushing the button, but they weren't. So she's literally just sitting there getting soaking wet because I think she thought they were coming for her. And he kept taking off his headset and he's like, I'm gonna go not listen to this. I'm gonna go not listen to this. I was a little surprised though that Rose went out that night just because I thought she was kind of doing okay, which, from the days prior, one day she'd be like, I want to go home. And then she got the fire. She's like, okay, don't listen. I don't want to go home anymore. So she was kind of up and down the whole time. But yeah, I was a little surprised. I kind of wish that I would have held off a little for Austin to push the button first.
Yeah, I was shocked when I came out. And then found out that they had, once we got back to the hotel and stuff that night, found out there was 3 total extractions that day, and I was just like, oh man, I should have stuck it out. Like, it
was a hard day.
It was a bad day for sure.
Yeah, if you stick it out one more day, then you end up beating what, 2 or 3 more people at that point. It looks a lot better on your resume.
Right?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like, Davina, if you were told like, okay, we're doing extracted all-stars, we're bringing them back or whatever, would you change anything? Would you prep more or would you say, no, I'm never doing this again?
100% do it again tomorrow.
What?
I don't know. It's such an adrenaline rush. Like, and I think the challenge, like, in doing those trials, like, I don't know, like, it didn't show me talking about the RHAP challenge, but like, I was super anxious when they told us what we were going to be doing. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to pick up these logs. I'm not going to be able to carry them. And then I killed it at that challenge. It didn't show that. I was the second one in the water with my raft built. It didn't show that. And I was the second woman to get across. And I literally got on shore right after Megan because I was in front of her. She just caught up to me. So but it was such a good feeling to know that I'm capable of so much more than I give myself credit for. So I love that. And that adrenaline rush, like, I would totally do it again. But yeah, to answer the question, I would prep. For shelter for sure, especially waterproofing a shelter and just helping for the warmth, like to get the walls built around. And yeah, I would definitely practice that. And probably fire too.
Okay. Well, that's one half of the equation because Davina, you cannot do it alone. Devon, would you be willing to do this again? We put Davina back out there for a second try.
Maybe. I mean, it would be fun. It would be fun to see it again. It would. My son might not let me leave.
Would you rather go out yourself?
He makes fun of her all the time. He'll be like, I'm terrified, and he's 5. And then last night at his T-ball game, he comes running up to me, Mom, I'm so sad I didn't get pizza. I was like, are you making fun of Sissy?
How do you think you would do, Devon, if you were the one being the survivalist?
Oh, no, never. I mean, honestly, I'm a lot stronger than Davina, though. She's really tiny. I mean, she's 5 foot nothing. So I am like stronger, but that is not my thing. I like a bed. And she's more of a princess than me. I will say, like, I'll go get down and dirty, but yeah, I don't think I could do that. I wouldn't have eaten deer meat. I don't even know if I would have cut it, honestly. I think I might have been puking on like the side of the camera.
Oh my gosh.
Davina, you're always exceeding expectations here because you know, like we were all hearing them talk about how we didn't know how long you're gonna make it, this, that, and other, and you're talking about potentially going out a second time. So that means you do plan on eating the deer meat and building the shelter and getting out there with the bears all over again. Davina, I'm kind of looking for that to happen. Let's get that call going for All Stars.
Great.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you both for talking with us. Is there anything else you want to share about your time out there that we didn't get to see?
I don't know. I think we covered it all. Thanks for having us.
I know we're
Awesome.
so excited to talk to you. Like we from the podcast when y'all review each episode, and y'all had my whole salon where I worked. Those girls laughed so hard they were crying. They watched it over and over.
Well, we were so happy to have someone like you on the show. It was really great. Exactly what we were looking for.
Thank you. That's girl to me. I love you guys.
Awesome.
thank
Well,
y'all
thank
so
you
much.
both.
Thank you for having us.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.